she probably needs to.
I,
You ready?
yes. Hi, my name is Lynn. I'm a friend of Meg's and was a friend of Fred's. I'd like to thank everyone that came. We're here to celebrate the life of Fred. Fred was born August 2nd, 1944 in Culver City. And I didn't know Fred all that well, but I loved him because he was funny. He would sit there and tell me stories, and I just thought he was a unique person. And I'd like to tell you a little story first, real quick, that he told me. Now, his mother owned a beauty shop in Culver City, right across from where MGM studios were. And after school, he'd go to his mom's shop. Well, Fred learned how to fix drinks because after his mom closed the shop, he'd go in the back and fix some drinks. And he'd sit there and have a few and then they'd go. Then another time, Fred told me that Fred and a friend of his went over to the studio and they were walking around, checking everything out, and they found John Wayne's horse. And he said that he stole the horse, rode it over to his mom's shop. Well, I looked at him, I said, Fred, you're so full of crap, you did not do that. I did. And I go, yeah, sure. Got up and I think I went in to see what man was doing. Came back and he goes, I did steal John Wayne's horse. I said, okay, all right. If it's true, I don't know. But I think it's a funny story. I know he had very many stories. So now I'd like to introduce, well first I'm going to read the Lord's Prayer. I can get my phone up. Okay, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And now I'd like to introduce, Meg's going to come up and say a few things.
Hi everyone. First of all, I want to thank everybody that we have invited here from the community. Fred actually had a love for the people that are here because he felt like they were family. That people would come, let our dog out at a moment's notice when we called them, can you please come and help? And that's what this community meant to him. Fred and I have been friends for probably over 13 years. I'm just moving this down a little. And he was a 79-year-old child. He was, but he exuded that childlike attitude. That's what made Fred special. He knew he could be a really bad boy, and he was a lot. But he was also a very good man. When we first moved out here, we'd spend till 1 o'clock in the morning playing gin because we didn't have a TV yet. And we sat outside and he loved it. And so we kind of made a second patio with our TV and chairs and everything. And he loved it. We played gin until we couldn't, or we were just too tired. Fred loved going to the Derby room. It's in Norco, and they actually have horse racing where you can bet. And one time he said to me, you know, I think if I start studying all this, I could make some really good money. Yeah, I put a kibosh to that. Like, no, we're not doing that. He was very loved by them. I actually went there last month, and here's how I know that Fred is actually still with us. I walked in, I sat down, our favorite bartender came over, I told him what had happened. He just brings me a program and a glass of wine, and I look at the program in Aqueduct, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, are you kidding me? The next race, the favorite, is called Born a Gambler. I could hear Fred in my head, put $10 or put $20 across the board on it. I'm like, no, I'm going to do your favorite number, 333. $3 to win, 3 to show, 3 to place. Well, the horse was favorite, it did come in third. So I lost money. Those of you know about gambling. But I made it up on the second race because I wouldn't listen to Fred in my head. He was a goofball, man. He would do just silly things. And it was wonderful to be so childlike. In the house, I'm walking behind him with a mop because his coffee and Bailey's dumping out, right? And I'm right, he goes, oh man, my dad used to do that all the time. And I said, I'm not your mommy. You need to take care of this yourself. So he had a great idea. Put his coffee cup in and then he just wrapped it in a plastic bag, right? He thought it was so great. He started, she's coming through like this. And like Fred, looks down. The plastic has a hole in it. The coffee has been spilling everywhere. He has a big balloon of hot coffee and Bailey's or Kahlua. I was just like, you clean this up. He was in that case. Oh, Fred. You are a really good man, though. You know, he could be a bad boy, but he could be a really, really good man. People needed anything. He'd give it to them cars. He needed to borrow a car for a while. I had a Jeep one time. He used to help people. Yeah, take it. Go ahead and move furniture. I'll drive you. We can move furniture. He was a good man. At the end, his nephew, Kenny, Joanne's son, told me that he and Fred had a lot of nice talks, especially about God and Jesus and how he felt that he was. He calls him with JC. I'm good with JC. And my brother Joe said, Fred slid into heaven with his hair on fire and laughing and just saying, aha, I did it. Yes, Fred, you did it. I miss you dearly. Minty loves you. I love you. And I just say peace out. George, this is a cousin of Fred's. He'll be coming up next to talk. I'm sure he has different stories, or not.
All right, I'm gonna make this higher. I'm just a little bit taller than me. I'm George Murphy. I'm Fred's first cousin. I'm 66. He was 79. You do the math. And we were our close Hispanic family. And growing up, I would skip out on church when my older brother would drive us to Fred, who'd see Father Fred, and he'd tell us his misbegotten ways. and then we'd go home and sin because we was church. But, he was a character. I love the description, 79-year-old, 17-year-old. That described it very. I'm a born introvert, so the Marine Corps taught me how to get up, get over anxiety, and do things like this. Fred was a born extrovert. You know, go out to meet and enjoy people and friends and a bit of a drink. So his father's from New Mexico. His mother was from Arizona, and they met in California. But we go back in California maybe 200 years. Tell my daughter, we did not cross the border crossed us. Yeah, he was the third child of theirs. He used to cheat. My daughter reminded me he used to cheat going through high school by reading the papers of my cousin Pam. And could be why he went to several different high schools. So he got in a lot of trouble in high school, which was good for me. So when I got suspended a couple times, my parents would look at me and said, well, he's not Fred. The family, we called him the boy. Boy, not Fred, we called him boy, because as you know, in Hispanic families, boys are spoiled rotten. Me definitely. And Fred was, well, I had older sisters, and he was the first boy in really the Escondon clan. So his mother doted on him, and yes, spoiled rotten. But yeah, we're gonna miss Fred for his charm and everything else. Yeah, I knew him a lot of years. Well, you knew him my full 66 years. So he was still with us in spirit, and we appreciate that. All right.
Okay, Meg was gonna come up and for her friend Jerry to tell some more stories about Fred. Oh, there she is.
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay.
I'll get to you a little bit. Oh, it's right here.
No, it's not. Okay.
There.
Okay.
Anyways,
So, Jerry couldn't be here today. She's not feeling well. She didn't want to get anybody else sick. But she had told me a few things that she had said about Fred. Before I say that, though, I just want to tell you what a wonderful, generous lady Jerry is. She's always coming by, bringing people food, and she paid for the cake at his memorial service. She's a beautiful woman. She would always come and bring food, and every time she brought her grandson, Fred always gave him a $2 bill, and he thought that was just incredibly special. And so she told me that, and she also told me, I think Fred is probably one of the kindest men that I've met. And I said, you haven't met many men. Just kidding. But she really loved Fred, and she loved him. She said she could see the child that was just exuding from him. And anyways, Jerry, I hope you get better, and thank you again for the cake. I know everyone's gonna love it.
I'm going to read, it was a friend of Fred's, Fred Hellman, that they met when they were in school. He couldn't be here, but he wrote this out. It says, Freddie and I met when we were teenagers, and we became good friends. We had about 15 guys that would hang out together, usually at Tito's Tacos or Winchell's, where we carved our initials into the outside bricks. I really liked his parents, and even though I was Jewish, his mom gave me a chocolate Easter egg from C's every year. Fred always wore a Jewish star along with a cross because he said he wanted to cover all the bases. That sounds like Fred. When we were 18, we worked for a manufacturing place for 2 weeks and quit. We took our $25 paycheck and blew it at the track. We went to Vegas about 10 times and always stayed at the Mint. We would take $100 with us and would lose all of it. And then we had to figure out what to do next. In the early 70s, we and about 4 others in our group all started catering trucks. We thought we were great because we were making about $100 a week, which was good money in those days. Freddie and I met up in Culver City for lunch a couple of years ago, and we went back to that Winchell's before we left. Our initials aren't there anymore. And then Fred writes, "Rest in peace, my friend, you will be missed." Now I'm going to have Renee De Palma come up. She is a longtime friend, Fred's. And if you want to know anything about football, ask this lady.
Hello, I'm Renee. I live in Culver City where Fred lived for many, many years, and we were really good friends for about 20 years, 20 years. And what I'd like to tell you that maybe some of you don't know is that Fred was a comedian. Whenever we would greet each other, he would do something like this. Let's see if I can do it. I'm not sure I can pull it off. Hold on. How you doing? And I'd say, "Hi, Fred. How you doing?" He'd go, "You talking to me? Are you talking to me? I'm the Freddie. The Freddie. There's no other Freddie. I'm the Freddie." So that's how we lovingly called him, Freddie Luciano. Because that's how he liked to depict himself. When I met him, I told him he looked a lot like Joe Pesci in the way that he talked and how funny he was. And I'm in the film industry, so he lapped that up. And we would watch The Sopranos together, and he would do impressions, and he was a really, really funny guy. But I know him as a very good-hearted guy. He is a very generous man. He was a very, very good friend to me. And when I say good friend, I mean very good friend. We confided in each other. We took good care of each other through the good times, through the bad times. And we would play cards together also. I shared that with Meg. We played Rummy and Kings in the Corner and Crazy Eights until all hours of the night. And spent time with his mom, because as you know, Fred lived with his mom and took care of his mom in her latter years. So we would have a good time. And Fred would tell story after story after story, which I loved because I'm a screenwriter, right? So he would tell these very elaborate stories. Most of them were made up and exaggerated, which made them even funnier. And as Meg said, he was just a child in a man's body, enjoying life every day. He would tell me things like, "Renee, don't ever weaken. Don't ever let anybody get to you." And he had this strength about him in his childlike ways. He also had this strength about him that was very instilled in God, actually. And I brought this rosary because Fred actually gave this to me, and I keep it. He gave it to me and said, "Keep this with you, it'll keep you safe." And he really believed that. He was a man, of God, and had a very intimate relationship with Jesus. He felt not religious in any way, but very much close to God and kept God in his heart and shared that. So I wanted to make sure that got honored today because that meant a lot to him. So Another thing about Fred, as you've heard, is he loved to gamble. So he made up all kinds of stories about being a bookie, right? He loved to be a bookie. And he'd go around and, place bets with different people. But he and I would place bets on the phone every football game, every single one. And I would win some, and he would win some. But it meant that we called each other, really, every football game. Whether it was a college game that we picked or an NFL game, we called each other and joked about it and laughed about it and passed $25 back and forth at least 100 times. So I just wasn't expecting Fred to go. That was really hard on me. I thought we would have many, many years to come. But as it says on the little pamphlet, he's now free, and I believe that. He's in heaven, he's free. He gets to run with all the gamblers that he wants and continue to have a good time. And I just want to acknowledge how much love he gave to people on this earth while he was here. Even though he had, a hankering for taking women to elaborate dinners and going out and enjoying all kinds of fun and cocktails and laughter. The main thing about Fred is he was one of the most kind, generous men I've ever met. And I'm glad I got to love him for 2 decades. And I miss him very much. Thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to have Serena come up, and she's going to read something from Danny Edison.
Hello, I'm Serena. I forgot how to use stairs yesterday, so bear with me. I'm reading for Danny Eidson, a friend of Fred's. So let me begin. When I first moved to Playa del Rey, I used to hang out at Moe's, a dive bar, but also a wonderful meeting place for locals. That is where I met Fred. We connected right away. Even though he had his tough exterior, he had a heart of gold that if you got to know him, you would understand. We both shared a love for football, and we would constantly express our opinions on various teams. He was extremely competitive, as was I. We shared many lunches, and there was not many times he didn't pick up the check. He was more than generous. The most significant memory was when I was diagnosed with bladder cancer. Having my bladder removed, and upon returning home from a 3-week stay at the hospital, I continued with home care connected to all types of tubes. It was Freddie who came by my place 3 times a week to walk with me outside carrying all the stuff I was attached to. I will never forget his friendship and his generosity. To you, my friend, thank you for just being you. A blessing I will dearly miss. From Danny Eidson.
Okay, now we're going to have Mary Jane come up. She is a friend of Fred's and Meg's, and she's going to tell some stories.
Well, first of all, I can say I'm very proud to count myself as one of Fred's friends. And whenever I think of Fred, I think of one word: fun. Fred was fun, and he wanted everybody around him to have fun, to spread the joy, and we've heard about how he liked to tell stories. It was just so wonderful. It was wonderful to be around him. We really felt alive. And I remember the first time I ever met Fred, and it was at the Wood in Culver City. And he was there with Meg, and they had invited me over for dinner. And when they decided to leave for the evening, Fred's walking out, and his back was Timmy, and he had this cane with him, the cane he would always carry. And he twirled it and kicked up his feet like Charlie Chaplin. I just laughed hysterically, and I just said, this is somebody that just wants to have fun. Fred, I never heard him say a mean word about anybody. I mean, he was just so kind. And he very much, loved his parents. I know he would tell stories and took care of his mother in her last years, and he was just so loyal, just a really loyal person. One time we were at the Derby room, and I showed up and Fred said, well, hey, place a bet. And I don't know which horse to place a bet on, so I just said, hey, give me the odds, give me this sheet. And I looked at it and I go, this one. And Fred's like, here's the money, let's go place a bet. Well, the horse won. And we were all hooting and hollering, and boy, collected the winnings and had the best steak dinner and bottle of wine that evening, so the winnings paid for even more fun. Fred did, he would tell the most wonderful stories about his childhood, because he was mischievous, that Fred, to say the least. I just always knew, whether it was playing cards or just chatting, that it was just a memorable experience. He left people with a lot of really wonderful memories and memorable times. And not too many months ago, Fred called me, and he had a little stint in the hospital. And it was so nice, because he told me, he just said, hey, I really am so happy you're one of my friends. And it was just so nice to hear him say that. And so, I shared my sentiment. I'm like, there's nobody like the Fred, because that's what he called himself, the Freddy. And but more importantly too, I remember he also said that he was so thankful that he had Meg in his life, that she was such a great friend and was taking care of him. And it was so important to him, and he valued that so much. It was just so wonderful to be able to have that conversation with him. So I know Freddie is no longer with us, but he's left us all with so many wonderful memories. And every time I think about Fred, I just have a big smile on my face. So here's to Fred today.
Okay, we're gonna have Deb Lusky, I hope I said your last name right. She's going to read a letter. When Fred, before he was cremated, his corneas were donated. And so Deb's going to read a letter.
Hello, everyone. I just have to say something about Fred. I met Fred about 12 years ago, him and Meg about the same time. Of course, I met him in one of his favorite locations, a bar. It was a local bar, kind of like Cheers that you see on TV. It was called Sarah's Wine Bar. And that's where I met Meg and I met Fred. And Fred was hilarious from the moment I met him. I was sitting there and he goes, hey lady, can I buy you a drink? I said, of course. And, and he was he was so much fun, and when he and Meg decided to move out here, I was so excited to have them close by me. And, Fred was always just the kindest person. I mean, I hear everyone said about how kind he was. And that's the truth, that he truly was one of the kindest people I ever met. And the $2 bill man, that's what my grandkids used to call him, because every time he would see the kids, he gave them a $2 bill, and he was just a loving, kind person, and I really miss him a lot. But his kindness went on and on even after he left us here. He never stopped giving. That's because that's who he was, a giving, kind, loving person. And Cornigen is a donation center that actually harvested Fred's corneas. And I want to read to you the nice letter that they sent to Meg. It said, "Dear Meg, Cornelia Jan wishes to extend our condolences following the loss of your loved one, Fred, and thank you for your decision to donate the precious gift of sight on his behalf. Fred's cornea donation has given a sight to a 50-year-old man in California. Your compassion and your desire to help others made this special gift possible." Fred just kept on giving and giving and seeing and giving, and he couldn't do anything, but he could see really, really well. And so, I will miss him dearly. My grandchildren miss him dearly, and I know he's hanging out with Jesus and giving him the blues, I'm sure. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to have Aaron play I Did It My Way. And his wife Linda's going to come up and read a poem.
I'm glad I didn't forget my glasses. Letters are tiny. Okay. No, thank you. Okay, the poem is called I'm Free. Don't grieve for me, for now I'm free. I'm following the path God laid for me. I took his hand when I heard him call. I turned my back and left it all. I could not stay another day to laugh, to love, to work or play. Task left undone must stay that way. I found the peace at the close of day. If my parting has left a void, then fill it with remembering joy. A friendship shared, a laugh, a kiss. Oh yes, these things I'll miss, but not burdened with times of sorrow. My life's been full, I've savored much. Good friends, good times, a loved one's touch. Perhaps my time seemed all too brief. Don't lengthen it now with undue grief. Lift up your hearts and share with me. God wanted me now, he set me free.
the slideshow?
It's not just like Fred. Something got screwed up.
So you want me to do my comedy act, or
Yes, please.
I'll be in
We
Vegas
did
next
have,
week?
we had a beautiful slideshow that Deb put together. I had the friends and pictures of Fred, and almost every picture has Fred with a drink. But it's, hopefully, she's actually going to send it to Patrick, who's doing the live streaming, and he can add it later, because you'll be able to actually watch this again.
Okay.
But, yes, thank
Okay.
you. Thanks, Fred.
Yeah. I'd like to take this time to thank Jackie and her husband Ralph for setting this up. It's beautiful. And thank you for everyone for coming. When Meg asked me to do this, I'm thinking, oh my God, I am not a public speaker. And I'll probably stutter and make an ass of myself. So any complaints, leave it in by the door. And so what are we gonna do now?
Just, lunch.
Lunch?
Yes.
Okay.
So thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, and so thank you for saying that.
Well, you're welcome.
Oh, yeah, do you want to go ahead and do that? You have something coming up to do, a prayer for the lunch. Oh, I do? Okay, good. Okay, I'll do that, thank you.
Okay, if we could bow our heads and ask blessing over the meal that we'll be eating right now. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this day. I thank you for all these friends that have gathered to remember Fred and all the great stories and memories that will be cherished about him forever in our hearts. I ask you to bless the food and the hands that prepared it, and may it be nourishing to our bodies. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Aaron has a song then.
Yes. Okay. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for watching this. We love you. We know Fred loves you. And thank you for loving Fred and knowing the man that he was. So.